Now let's create our hash method. What our hash method will do is it will take in a string, which for us will be the key property on one of our nodes, and hash it into a number that corresponds with one of the buckets in our hash table. That bucket is where we will end up putting our node, but we are not going to worry about that right now. For now, we are just going to focus on writing a method that hashes our key into an appropriate number. Let's get started. We will write hashtable.prototype.hash equals a function. And this function will take in a key parameter, which will end up being the key property on one of our nodes. To turn our key, which is a string, into a number, we are going to use the charCodeAt method that we discussed in the last video. We will use this method to add up the values of each character in our key, and we will store that total in a variable. Then we will have a single large number. Let's do that now. We will say variable total equals 0 to initiate our total variable. Then we will loop through every character in our string with a for loop. So we will say for variable I equals 0 while I is less than key.length, the length of our key. We want to increase I by 1 on every iteration, so I++. This will take us through every character in our key parameter. Inside of our for loop, we will say total plus equal to key.charCodeAt, and we will pass in I. This will add the numeric value of every character in our string to our total. Great, so now we have some big values stored in our total variable, but there's one problem. We need this value to correspond with one of the buckets in our hash table, but chances are that this number is way above 30 right now, which is too large for our hash table. Our hash table only has 30 buckets in it, so we need this number to be somewhere between 0 and 29. Which is the range of indexes that we have in our hash table. To solve this problem, we will use the modulus operator that we discussed in the last video. If we do total modulus this dot numBuckets, we will get a number between 0 and 29. If you think about it, this makes sense, right? If we divide any number by 30, which is how many buckets we currently have, then the remainder can only be any number between 0 and 29. Pretty cool how that works, right? We will not hard code 30 in here though, because we want this to work for any size hash table that we will make. So we will leave it as this.numBuckets. We will store this value in a variable called bucket. And at the end here, we will simply return the bucket. Now we have a function that takes in a key, hashes that key into a number, and tells us what bucket to put our node in. Good. Let's test it out real quick. Down here, below our hash table, we will write myHT.hash, and we will pass in a key. We will use the name Becca for our example. And let's put this in a console log. And now when we run this, we should see a number between 0 and 29 logged out. Let's see what we get. We got 12. Perfect. So it looks like our hash function is working correctly. In the next video, we will code out our insert method, which will insert our hash nodes into the correct bucket in our hash table.